Once upon a time, in the small village of Izioma, there lived a family with two beautiful daughters. The village was peaceful, surrounded by tall trees, with fresh air and calm rivers. The people of Izioma held their traditions close to their hearts, especially the tradition of keeping a daughter pure until marriage. In this village, virginity before marriage was a big honor, not just for the girl but for her entire family. In Izioma, when a girl married as a virgin, it was a thing of great pride. The whole village would come together to celebrate her with dances and songs. On her wedding day, the girl's family would be respected, and her father would be seen as a man who raised his daughter well. They believed that a girl's purity was not just her own but something that represented her family's dignity. The men of the village were taught to value virgins as wives. When a man wanted to marry, the first thing his family would ask was, "Is she a virgin?" If the answer was yes, the man would marry her with joy, knowing that his family would be respected in the village. But if a girl was not pure, the shame would not only fall on her but also on her father, mother, and even her younger siblings. They believed that if the first daughter was not married as a virgin, it would affect her younger sisters. It was said that men would fear to marry from such a family, and the younger girls might find it hard to get husbands. In this village, there was a family known for their strictness in following tradition. The father, Papa Uche, was a respected man. He was a farmer, working hard every day to provide for his family. His wife, Mama Uche, was a strong woman, always teaching her daughters the right ways of life. They had two daughters, Adaora and Nkechi, but the two girls were very different. Adaora, the first daughter, was obedient and quiet. She respected her parents and followed their teachings. She knew the importance of staying pure until marriage and always made sure to keep herself away from trouble. Nkechi, the younger sister, was the opposite. She was wild and carefree. She loved to enjoy life, and many times, she would ignore her mother's advice, laughing with the village boys and doing things that worried her parents. Mama Uche would always call the girls to sit down in the evening, under the big mango tree, and remind them of the importance of staying pure. She would tell them, "If you lose your virginity before marriage, it will bring shame to this family. The villagers will not respect us, and your younger sister will suffer because of your mistake." Adaora always listened carefully, but Nkechi would only roll her eyes, not taking the words seriously. The people of the village believed that if the first daughter did not marry as a virgin, it would be as if she broke a chain that connected her sisters. The younger daughters would be seen as not trustworthy, and no good man would want to marry them. As time passed in Izioma village, Adaora's beauty, kindness, and respect for tradition made her the pride of her family. She was known throughout the village not just for her looks, but for her good heart. She was always helping people, showing patience and respect to everyone, from the elders to the young children. And it was no surprise when a young man named Emeka, one of the most respected men in the village, fell in love with her. Emeka was tall, strong, and hardworking, known for his honesty and leadership in the village. Many girls admired him, but it was Adaora who won his heart. Their love grew with each passing day, and soon, everyone in Izioma was talking about their upcoming marriage. The elders blessed their union, saying it would bring honor to both families. Emeka's family was filled with joy, knowing that Adaora was the perfect wife, pure, gentle, and full of grace. But while the village celebrated Adaora, her younger sister, Nkechi, was burning with jealousy. Nkechi had always lived in Adaora's shadow. People would often compare the two sisters, praising Adaora for her beauty and good behavior while shaking their heads at Nkechi's carefree attitude. This made Nkechi's heart bitter. She hated that Adaora was getting all the attention, and she couldn't stand that her older sister was about to marry the most respected young man in the village. As Adaora and Emeka's love blossomed, Nkechi became more and more envious. She wanted to be the one everyone admired, and deep inside, she even wished she could have Emeka for herself. But she knew that Emeka had eyes only for Adaora. Nkechi's jealousy began to eat away at her, and soon, she started plotting. She would sit under the mango tree, her mind racing with ideas. She was tired of being in Adaora's shadow and decided she was willing to do anything to change her fate. One day, Nkechi sat by the riverbank, watching as Adaora and Emeka walked by, hand in hand, smiling and laughing. The sight made her blood boil. Why should it always be Adaora? Nkechi thought. Why should she have everything while I get nothing? Nkechi was not just envious, she was cunning. She knew how to charm people and get what she wanted. Slowly, she began to scheme, thinking of ways to ruin her sister's happiness and take Emeka for herself. At home, Nkechi started acting sweet and helpful, pretending to be supportive of Adaora's upcoming marriage. She smiled and did her chores without complaining, and even Mama Uche noticed the change in her behavior. But deep inside, Nkechi had a plan. She knew that if she could create a scandal around Adaora, it would break the marriage. And then, maybe, Emeka would notice her. One evening, when Adaora was out helping Mama Uche at the market, Nkechi made her move. She approached Emeka while he was working in the farm, pretending to be concerned about Adaora. Emeka, Nkechi said softly, I'm worried about my sister. I don't know how to say this, but I think she's hiding something from you. Emeka looked surprised. What do you mean? He asked. I don't want to cause trouble, but I've seen Adaora talking to another man. She seems very close to him, Nkechi whispered, her eyes wide with fake concern. Emeka's face changed. He trusted Adaora, but Nkechi's words planted a seed of doubt in his mind. Are you sure? He asked, frowning. I'm just looking out for you, Emeka. I don't want you to get hurt. Maybe you should ask her yourself, Nkechi said, leaving Emeka to think over her words. Nkechi smiled to herself as she walked away. This was just the beginning of her plan. She knew that if she could make Emeka doubt Adaora's loyalty, it would create cracks in their relationship. And those cracks, Nkechi hoped, would lead Emeka right into her arms. As the days went by, Nkechi's jealousy grew stronger. She wasn't just content with causing doubt, she wanted to ruin Adaora completely. She started spreading small, quiet rumors in the village, making it seem like Adaora wasn't as pure as everyone thought. She whispered to the village girls, knowing that word would eventually reach Emeka. Adaora, kind and trusting, had no idea that her own sister was working against her. She continued to prepare for her wedding, happy and in love, while Nkechi secretly plotted her downfall. Nkechi's jealousy and hatred for Adaora only grew stronger with time. Every time she saw Emeka and Adaora together, she felt a fire burn in her chest. Her plan to create suspicion between them was working, but not fast enough. Emeka was a patient man, and Adaora's goodness still shined brightly in his eyes. Nkechi knew she had to take things further, much further, to destroy her sister's happiness completely. Nkechi, in her bitterness, made up her mind to ruin Adaora in the worst way possible. She remembered the strong belief in the village that a girl's virginity was everything. If Adaora was no longer a virgin, her marriage to Emeka would collapse, and her family would fall into shame. Without hesitation, Nkechi began plotting something more dangerous. One dark night, while the village slept, Nkechi snuck out of the house and went to the edge of the forest where she had arranged to meet a man. His face was covered with a mask, and Nkechi had paid him well to do something unforgivable. I have told you what you need to do, Nkechi said, her voice cold. You will make sure Adaora is disgraced, and no one must know it was me. The masked man nodded, taking the money Nkechi handed him. He was a stranger from another village, someone who had no ties to Izioma. Nkechi knew this was the perfect way to cover her tracks. No one would ever suspect her. The next few days were tense in the Uche household. Nkechi continued her sweet, fake behavior, helping Adaora prepare for the wedding, pretending to be excited for her sister. But behind her fake smiles, she was waiting for the right moment to strike. One evening, while Adaora was returning home from fetching water at the river, Nkechi put her plan into action. The masked man, hiding in the bushes, attacked Adaora. He forced himself on her, robbing her of her purity. Adaora, shocked and broken, returned home in tears. She couldn't tell anyone what had happened, as shame and fear clouded her mind. But Nkechi knew, her evil plan had worked. The next day, Emeka noticed something was wrong with Adaora. She was quiet, withdrawn, and avoided looking him in the eye. He tried to comfort her, but she couldn't explain what had happened. Rumors began to spread in the village. Some villagers noticed Adaora's change in behavior and whispered among themselves. Nkechi, of course, was the one who planted these rumors. She told her friends in secret that maybe Adaora had been seeing someone else, just as she had hinted to Emeka before. Slowly, the rumors reached Emeka's ears. He began to doubt. Was Nkechi right all along? Did Adaora have a secret she wasn't telling him? He loved her deeply, but the growing whispers made him uneasy. He confronted Adaora one evening, trying to get the truth from her. Adaora, something is wrong. You are not yourself. Please, tell me what is happening. Is there something you are hiding from me? Emeka asked, his voice filled with worry. Adaora, still too ashamed to speak, said nothing, tears rolling down her face. This silence made Emeka more suspicious. He began to pull away, unsure if he could trust her anymore. Back in the Uche household, Mama Uche noticed the tension between her two daughters. Adaora became more withdrawn, while Nkechi was suddenly the one who seemed lively and cheerful. Nkechi pretended to care for Adaora, but Mama Uche sensed something wasn't right. The villagers, too, started whispering about Adaora. Why does she look so sad? What happened to the joy in her eyes? Could it be that she is not as innocent as we thought? The rumors began to affect the family's reputation. Papa Uche, a proud man who valued tradition, started hearing the whispers about his daughter. It hurt him deeply, as he had always been proud of Adaora. He even confronted Adaora, asking her what had happened. Adaora, you are my daughter. I raised you with pride, and now people are talking. What is going on? What have you done? Papa Uche asked sternly, his heart heavy with worry. Adaora, still too traumatized to explain, could only cry. Her silence made her father suspect the worst. He began to believe the rumors that were spreading like wildfire through the village. Meanwhile, Nkechi continued to stir the pot. She would visit Emeka's family and casually mention how Adaora had been acting strange lately. I don't know what's going on with my sister, she would say innocently. I just hope she's not hiding anything. Emeka's family began to have second thoughts about the marriage. They loved Adaora, but they couldn't ignore the growing gossip. One day, Emeka's mother, a stern woman, called him aside and said, Emeka, my son, you must think carefully about this marriage. A woman who hides things from her husband is not a good wife. If Adaora cannot be honest with you, maybe she is not the right one. Emeka's heart was torn. He loved Adaora, but his family's words, along with the rumors, made him question everything. Was his future wife really who he thought she was? Did she betray him? The village was now buzzing with gossip, and the tension between Adaora and Emeka became obvious to everyone. Even the elders who once blessed their union began to talk. Adaora, who had once been the pride of her family and the entire village, now walked with her head down, filled with shame. Nkechi, on the other hand, was secretly enjoying the chaos she had caused. She continued to play the role of the concerned sister, but deep down she was satisfied. She had managed to destroy Adaora's happiness, and in her twisted mind, she thought that now, maybe Emeka would notice her. But Izioma village was a place where secrets never stayed hidden for long. As the tension in the village grew, and the family began to fall apart, a small mistake from Nkechi threatened to expose her evil plan. The tension in Izioma village had reached its peak. Rumors swirled like a storm, and Adaora, once the village's pride, was now a shadow of her former self. She avoided the market, the village square, and even the church. Emeka had grown distant, and her parents were heartbroken. The shame that Nkechi had orchestrated was unbearable, and yet Adaora remained silent, trapped in her trauma. But secrets never stay hidden for long in a small village like Izioma. What Nkechi didn't know was that the masked man she paid to disgrace her sister had been seen. A young hunter, Obina, had been out in the forest that night, setting traps for small animals. He noticed Nkechi speaking to the masked man, but thought nothing of it at the time. Days passed, and Obina started to hear the rumors about Adaora. Slowly, he began to piece together what he had witnessed. Something wasn't right, and his conscience began to weigh on him. One evening, while fetching water at the river, Obina overheard Nkechi whispering to a friend about her successful plan to ruin Adaora. Nkechi, in her arrogance, couldn't resist gloating about how she had orchestrated the whole thing. She believed her secret was safe and laughed about how Adaora's silence was working in her favor. "That foolish girl," Nkechi whispered to her friend, "now everyone thinks she's no longer pure. Even Emeka is beginning to pull away. Soon, Adaora will lose everything, and I'll be the one everyone respects." Obina's heart pounded as he realized the full extent of Nkechi's betrayal. He knew he had to act. Without wasting time, he ran to Emeka's home. He found Emeka sitting outside, lost in thought. "Emeka, I have something important to tell you," Obina said, breathless. "I know what really happened to Adaora." Meanwhile, back at the Uche household, the tension was unbearable. Adaora's silence was tearing her family apart, and Nkechi continued to play the role of the innocent, supportive sister. But Mama Uche, who had always been sharp-eyed, began to notice Nkechi's growing confidence. Something about her demeanor didn't sit right. It was as if Nkechi was enjoying the situation too much. Just as the family gathered for dinner that evening, there was a sudden knock on the door. Emeka, with Obina beside him, stormed into the house, his face dark with anger. He had listened to Obina's story and was furious at what he had learned. "Where is Nkechi?" Emeka demanded, his voice shaking with rage. The room fell silent. Nkechi, sitting at the table, froze. She hadn't expected this. Her plan was falling apart right in front of her eyes. "What is going on, Emeka?" Papa Uche asked, confused by the sudden commotion. Obina stepped forward. "Papa Uche, Mama Uche, I saw Nkechi the night that man attacked Adaora. She paid him to destroy her sister's life. It was all part of her plan." The air in the room grew thick with shock. Mama Uche's hands flew to her mouth, and Papa Uche's face darkened with fury. Adaora, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, looked up, tears welling in her eyes. The truth was finally out. Nkechi's heart raced. She tried to deny it, but her voice shook with fear. I don't know what he's talking about. He's lying." But Emeka was not convinced. He took a step toward Nkechi, his voice filled with disgust. "How could you? Your own sister. You ruined her life, her happiness, all because of your jealousy. You wanted to destroy her because you couldn't stand that she was loved." Nkechi, now cornered, panicked. She stood up from the table, her face flushed with anger and fear. "Yes," she screamed, her voice trembling. "Yes, I did it. I was tired of living in Adaora's shadow. Everyone always praised her, admired her. Even you, Emeka, you never saw me. It was always Adaora this, Adaora that. I couldn't take it anymore." The room fell silent. Adaora, who had been quietly crying, stood up slowly, her body shaking with emotion. She walked toward Nkechi, her eyes filled with a mixture of hurt and disbelief. "How could you do this to me, Nkechi?" Adaora's voice was soft but filled with pain. "I was your sister. I never wished you harm. Why would you go this far?" Nkechi, tears now streaming down her face, crumbled under the weight of her guilt. "I was jealous, Adaora. I couldn't help it. I wanted what you had. I wanted to be loved like you." Adaora's heart ached, but her strength returned. She looked at Nkechi, her voice steady. "You didn't have to destroy me to feel loved. We are sisters, Nkechi. There was always enough love for both of us." Mama Uche, tears in her eyes, stood in disbelief. She couldn't understand how her daughter had turned against her own sister. Papa Uche, filled with anger and shame, sat down heavily on his chair, unable to speak. The village elders were quickly informed, and soon, the whole community knew the truth. Nkechi's deception was exposed, and her once hidden jealousy was now the talk of the entire village. The same people who once whispered about Adaora's shame now turned their scorn toward by Adaora's side, his love for her stronger now that the truth had come out. He had seen how deeply she had suffered and vowed to support her through the healing process. The head elder, Chief Okonkwo, spoke first. "This village has always valued truth and family honor. Nkechi, your actions have not only brought shame to your family but to the entire community. To destroy your sister out of jealousy is a grave sin." Nkechi, kneeling before the elders, wept openly, Her once cunning confidence shattered. "I am sorry," she whispered, but the damage had been done. The elders decided that Nkechi would be sent away to live with distant relatives for a time, to reflect on her actions and the pain she had caused. Adaora, though hurt, asked the village not to banish Nkechi completely, showing once again her kind heart. She believed in forgiveness, though she knew it would take time to heal. Emeka, standing by Adaora's side, looked at the elders and spoke with conviction. "I still love Adaora. She has always been pure, in heart and soul, and I will marry her as I promised." The village erupted in applause, and for the first time in weeks, Adaora smiled. The weight of shame lifted from her shoulders, and though the scars of Nkechi's betrayal would take time to heal, Adaora knew that she was strong enough to overcome it. As Nkechi was led away, she looked back at Adaora one last time. Adaora, standing tall and proud, gave her sister a nod. It wasn't a gesture of approval, but of understanding. Though Nkechi had made terrible choices, Adaora hoped that one day, they could heal as a family. Months passed after the dramatic events that exposed Nkechi's betrayal. Life in Izioma village slowly returned to normal, though the story of the two sisters remained in the hearts and minds of the villagers. Adaora and Emeka moved forward with their plans to marry, but there was still healing to be done. The day of Adaora and Emeka's wedding arrived, and the whole village gathered to celebrate. The wedding was a grand occasion, filled with joy and laughter. Adaora, dressed in the finest traditional attire, looked radiant as she walked down the aisle, her face glowing with hope and resilience. Emeka stood by her side, proud and grateful to be marrying the woman he loved. Despite everything that had happened, Adaora's heart was filled with forgiveness. She had spent many days reflecting on the events and had come to understand the destructive power of jealousy. She knew that holding on to anger would only darken her own heart. Nkechi, who had been sent away to live with relatives, was allowed to return for the wedding. She had changed during her time away, humbled, remorseful, and determined to make amends. When she arrived at the wedding, she was nervous, unsure if her family or the village would ever truly forgive her. As the ceremony came to an end, Nkechi gathered the courage to approach her sister. Adaora, surrounded by family and friends, saw Nkechi standing hesitantly at the edge of the crowd. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world seemed to pause. Nkechi knelt before Adaora, tears streaming down her face. "Adaora," she began, her voice trembling, "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I am truly sorry. I let my jealousy consume me and nearly destroyed our family. I don't know how to make things right, but I promise I will spend the rest of my life trying." The crowd grew silent, waiting for Adaora's response. The weight of Nkechi's words hung in the air. Adaora, her eyes filled with tears, stepped forward and gently lifted Nkechi to her feet. "Nkechi," Adaora said softly, "I forgive you. What you did was wrong, but you are still my sister. We cannot undo the past, but we can choose how we move forward. Let this be the start of something new, a chance to rebuild our bond and heal our family." The crowd sighed with relief and admiration. The strength of Adaora's forgiveness moved everyone present, reminding them of the importance of love, unity. In the weeks that followed, Nkechi worked hard to prove she had changed. She helped Adaora and Emeka settle into their new home and began mending relationships with her parents and the community. Though it took time, the village slowly welcomed her back. Nkechi learned the painful lesson that jealousy and selfishness only lead to destruction, while love and kindness bring peace and fulfillment. Adaora, on the other hand, became even more respected in the village. Her ability to forgive her sister despite the deep pain she had endured made her a symbol of strength and grace. She and Emeka lived happily together, and their marriage became a shining example of love built on trust, patience, and forgiveness. The moral of the story spread far and wide in Izioma. Jealousy can ruin even the closest of bonds, but forgiveness and understanding can restore what was broken. True happiness comes not from tearing others down, but from lifting each other up and choosing love over envy. Nkechi, once lost in her envy, now understood the value of family and integrity. She vowed to never let jealousy rule her heart again, and she became an advocate for helping others overcome the destructive emotions that had once consumed her. As time passed, the Uche family grew closer, stronger, and more united than ever before, having learned that no matter the hardship, love and forgiveness are the greatest strengths of all. Hey my amazing Foxy family, thank you so much for sticking with me through this incredible story. I hope it touched your heart just as much as it touched mine. I really love hearing what you think about the stories we share here on Tales by Foxy, so please drop a comment below and share your thoughts. What do you think of this story? Could you forgive such a betrayal? And remember, if you enjoyed today's tale, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to me, and it keeps us going strong. Together, we are building something special, and I couldn't do it without you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep spreading love. Bye for now, my lovely Foxy family. Face blowing a kiss.